Hello, welcome to That Guy's a Maniac, the internet's second greatest video game blog, the website, the podcast. We talk about 3 video games over and over again. My name is Kanzi Wonwon. My co-host is Richie. Say hello, Richie.
Hello, Richie.
You can find our ramblings at www.thatguys.co.uk. You can also find us at various socials under the username
At That Guy's a Maniac, all one word, lowercase.
All one word, all lowercase. Today, I think we're going to be picking back up on some big questions, getting to know you type affair. But first of all, Richie, do you have a video game quote for me to guess the origins of?
Yes, I do. Right, you ready for this one? You ready?
I am.
Are you psyched? Are you get your Rolodex of game quotes going spinning in your head? You ready?
Sure.
There was a hole here. It's gone now.
Hey, I know this one. This is from Silent Hill for the Room.
No.
No?
Silent Hill 2.
Is it?
Yeah, but
Does he say...
you're getting it. You're getting it. Silent Hill, definitely.
Yeah, does he say it again in Silent Hill 4 then? Is that a throwback?
Maybe it is a throwback, but initially there was a hole here. It's written, it's not actually said.
Yeah.
In Silent Hill 2. So if it's said in Silent Hill 4, then it's probably more appropriate. But well done. That was quite a snappy one.
I remember it from the bathroom.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Because if you remember, the portals to the different worlds appear in different parts of the room. And then when you go back and go to that place, the hole has moved. Yeah. When is it said in Silent Hill 2?
It was one of the bathroom scenes.
That game and bathrooms.
I know. This is like, oh yeah, there was multiple bathroom scenes. Yeah.
It was because I read right on the internet. It's because there's so many like myths and legends and ghost stories in Japan, maybe across the whole of that part of the world. And so in Japanese games, the toilet location is inherently already so loaded and scary.
Well, there's a thing that we kind of miss as Westerners as well, is the use of water or flowing water is supposed to be like a sort of bridge to the spirit realm. So in a lot of films where you see like The Grudge or The Ring or something like that, there's always a water scene where there is evil spirits. So yeah, and that just doesn't really translate over here. And also, I would hate it. Like I would really, really hate to be scared of water and bathrooms. I used to be scared of like toilets when I was a kid. Yeah. As in like specifically the flush. It'd be one of these things where as the toilet was flushing, I would wash my hands as quickly as possible. Don't look directly into the mirror because maybe something's looking back at you in the mirror, and I would get out of the bathroom as quick as I could. You know? Oh
yeah, you ever do that? I think I can still freak myself out about that. If you ever just stare at yourself in the mirror, and then you kind of flick your eyes, trying to look at your own eyes, which you can never do because they keep moving from one side to the other. Yeah. And you can convince yourself that your face is not matching your face in the mirror. And then you have to run. I think it's and then you have to run as fast as you can out of the toilet.
It's like that whole fear of like in the shower when you close your eyes as you're washing your hair. You want to get your eyes back open again in case there's some evil boogie monster about to attack you. And it's the same thing with mirrors. I always panic because they do this shit in films all the time. It's like when you're looking at a mirror and then something will just change slightly, or a little face will poke out the corner, and you just get it into your head, and then it freaks you out. And the whole rush of a very, very loud toilet, which obviously I had growing up. would freak me out because you couldn't hear anything else. It was loud, and I was like, it just really. Anyway,
Weird.
this is a podcast about video games.
Do you remember when we lived in the same house and we had the creepiest fucking toilet in the world?
Yes. Right down a really, really, really thin corridor.
It was Euclidean architecture. I don't really understand how. Well, I kind of do, but it seemed like there was this extraordinarily long corridor to the toilet. There was just nothing else there, and so late at night.
But it wasn't just a toilet. That's the thing. It's like this long corridor that came to a T-junction.
Yeah.
And at the very end, there was 2 shower rooms opposite each other, and then just before it, there was 2 bathrooms opposite each other as well.
In my mind, it was just a toilet in one.
No, there was 2 toilets.
Another one we didn't use, and then at the end was some creepy conservatory we weren't allowed to go onto.
Yeah.
And then so just.
Well, it wasn't a conservatory. It was the windows over the sort of roofy bit that went out the back garden. Yeah, this is so exciting for everybody.
Yeah,
everybody.
Anyway, so late at night you'd have to go, and you didn't want to turn the light on, so you turn the light on and the whole house would disrupt it in the hallway. So you'd have to feel your way down this creepy fucking corridor that went on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And do your business.
And all that sort of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, do your business, and then when you were walking back up the corridor with the creepy conservatory top of the stairs thing behind you, you'd have to run as fast as you could because obviously something was going to come and drag you into the darkness.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yep. Lovely irrational fears. This is what we get for talking about Silent Hill 2.
I know. I'm going to have to sleep with the lights on tonight.
Right, so where were we in the grand scheme of things with the questions? So we've had 1 episode so far, and we answered 1.5 questions.
Yeah. Which we won't review.
No.
Because I get tired very quickly. But did you want to come back on something? Because one of the questions was, what's a game that you like but few others do, or it got panned?
Yeah, and I chose Final Fantasy 13. 2. To which you googled and found it's actually got a really good rating, but for some reason we both have the same memory of it being universally panned.
I don't have that memory, no. I just remember a vocal minority didn't really like it.
Yeah, well, I guess that vocal minority became bigger in my head. So I went away and I had a little look at some of the games.
Have you got a video game that scored less than 80% on
yes,
Metacritic?
So my first thought, was, all those Naruto games that I was playing, because I liked Naruto a little while ago, and I thought, they'll all be shit. Had a look at them, they all score, 85%. And I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah, they had I remember you'd buy them all and play them. They had a really good run of making surprisingly decent,
Yeah, it was Namco Bandai.
Decent. Yeah. Most of them were like arena fighters, but yeah.
Yeah, or it was Sandbox Worlds as well.
Yeah.
Go out and collect these things. Here's little, nods to the series. Oh, cool.
So it turns out those were good as well.
Yeah, turns out those were good as well. But games that I have played and still play, which have got shit ratings.
Yeah.
So, flat out, Total Insanity.
Yeah.
That has a bad rating. It's like 47% or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
But obviously the party mode is the best party mode. It is buggy as hell, but I think that makes it a good game.
Yeah, so what are the reviews so harsh?
I don't know. Maybe the single player campaign is awful. I've never played it.
Never touched it.
No, it's just play the party mode. Just play the party mode. Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, Flat Out came out when racing games were a thing. They don't really exist anymore, right? You've got the Gran Turismos and your Forzas, and that's about it.
There's very, very much a lot of racing games.
Don't ruin my my imaginary narrative. Back before racing games were extinct or banned by the state, There used to be a lot of them, and then Flat Out came out as a kind of, I guess, bit of a more of a kooky, alternative, punky. It wasn't really punky, right? It's more rednecky. But the brilliant thing about Flat Out is both in the main game, but also in this extensive party mode, there are a lot of modes based around you hurtling your car. How would you say that in Scottish? How do you say, like, making your car go really fast?
Making your car...
Yeah,
hurtling down. That works.
Scroting or something like that.
Scroting?
Scrangin'.
Hurtling down is
Hurtling down. You hurtle your car down various ramps, gauntlets, and whatever. But the best bit was you had to kind of crash it, and then the driver would fly out of the window, and then you had ever so slight control over their ragdoll body, and you'd use your body to, I don't know, knock over pins, go through a hole, hit cards on a wall, hit a dartboard, and it was very fun and very funny.
Yes, and it is a genuinely fun thing. So basically you would eject out, and it was all the ragdoll physics as well are just so much fun, because this obviously the speed at which this person has come flying out the window would actually splatter him, but instead they remain sort of intact and falls down and twitches as he's falling down, and or landing in some water or whatever. It's good fun, and that all adds to it.
Yeah, so,
It sounds quite sadistic, actually.
Yeah, it's quite visceral. How many Flat Outs were there? Is it the second Flat Out? This one?
The party mode one was Flat Out 3,
Wow.
but I think it became Total Insanity, and then there's Flat Out 4, which is the new one, which is shinier, and I quite like the games in it, but it was also given a bad rating.
Flat Out 4 is Total Insanity.
Oh right, okay, well that's the one that's got a crap rating as well.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
3 is Chaos and Destruction.
Is it? I think it's just Flat Out something. Anyway, one of the Flat Out games I enjoy, I still play, yet it is quite badly rated.
Okay.
And another game which I played through, which divides the crowd, and this is one that I got 1,000 achievement points on, and very, very proud of, because it took me 150 hours to do. Is a game called Last Remnant. I think we've talked about this before.
Oh yeah, that's the game that I cannot keep in my head.
It's Square Enix. It's a really great concept. I'm glad I played it when I did, because there's no way in God's green earth I could replay that game for 150 hours. And I just, as a grown-up, I don't think you can find the time in your life for these sorts of things anymore. But yeah, Last Remnant was a really, really good game, and fond memories of it. It's a weird game, because you recruit units, and instead of being able to just sort of like, it has turn-based battles, but instead of being able to just sort of say, this person do this thing, like Charizard use, Flame Claw. Is that even a move?
No.
No, it's
No.
not. Fire Punch.
You're beating the odds by combining the word flame with anything and not ending up with a Pokemon move. So.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, Charizard used Fire Punch. But instead of
Charizard's just turning around like, what? Just say a move.
Yeah.
Use
Charizard used. Right, hang on. Let me get my fucking analogy.
Flame hit.
Are you done?
Fire
Charizard
scratch.
used Fly. Okay, instead of to one of your units saying use Fly, there is a percentage chance they will listen to you or not.
A bit like
They might
Pokemon.
do their own thing.
A bit like Pokemon when they're over leveled.
Only if they're over leveled sort of thing. But yeah, it's kind of like that. But it's also like it can really change how a battle goes because there's a morale meter. So if one person does one thing, then another group might get more morale, or they might get less if they fail doing the thing, and that changes like how a whole round goes. And it became very nuanced, and yeah, like the boss characters were epic. These were like boss characters you spent half an hour fighting in turn-based battles, keeping everyone healed, sort of like Ruby Weapon sort of style thing. And yeah, I went through and played the final big bad guy, it was that was a slog. And in fact, I think you had to kill 8 bosses in a row, so that's 4 hours solid straight playing of bosses, pretty much. It was a special time.
Shall I read you a review from Anonymous on Metacritic?
Yes.
They wrote this on January 4th, 2009. I'd rather burn myself than play this game, and after receiving second-degree burns before I say that rather seriously, horrible slowdown, graphic issues, overcomplicated attack systems, jerky character movement, and not to mention horrible British accents. I really tried to play this game, I really did, but it was so bad, after 5 minutes I stopped. 0.
Yeah, after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not even the tip of the iceberg. Not even the tip of the iceberg.
Would rather burn themselves than play this game after 5 minutes.
I mean, sure.
Wesker 2012. It always amazes me, these people. Wesker 2012. Posting in 2012. He says, decent game, 5.
Cool. Good old Wesker. Maybe that was my handle.
Decent game, 5 out of 10.
Yeah. 5 out of 10. Wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was 5 out of 5. He gave it.
No, 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Decent game. Yeah.
Yeah, decent game. Thanks, Wesker 2012.
I mean, it had overly complicated battle system. The Bernie guy, he had it right. It was overly complicated, but I think you grew to love it, like a kind of Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome control system. There we go.
What do you mean by
that? Like, because the controls, when I say the controls, I mean the actual fighting and designation was over complicated. Long animations as well.
Yeah.
But there was a level of, this is quite a drudge, but at the same time you're just like, wow, look at all these animations, we're going to do this thing, oh my god, this guy's done this thing now. Sort of, there was a random factor that kept you engaged.
Okay.
But in all honesty, writing it down on paper or saying it back out loud sounds like the most hideous way to enjoy a game as well.
Okay. Yeah, nice descriptor of Stockholm Syndrome controls.
Well, I mean, you grow to love it, like, but maybe you shouldn't. There are better games out there.
Yeah, no, I genuinely say, yeah, it's a good way to put it, and I do know exactly what you mean.
Okay.
It tricks you into it because you've been playing it for 150 hours. There must be something about it. But yeah, if you stop to think about it or play a game with better controls, like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I was being kept.
I mean, like, if it was a different time, if it was a different universe, I would love for you to have played through Last Remnant and understand.
Well, hey, we got a PlayStation 4 re-release. Sorry, I'm yawning. I'm so tired. Trying to mask it. It did get a PlayStation 4 re-release, or it came out at the same time the PlayStation 4.
Okay, cool.
Or remaster, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Like, yeah. I mean, again, I don't think you should, but in another universe you did, and we can talk about it and probably fondly mention it. But right. Yeah, I don't advise it. Right, so let's move on to the next question.
Yes.
Which I believe is, what's the worst game you've ever played? And
What's the worst? Yeah.
Since I've been banging on about my last one, I'm going to field that one to you, Farley.
Well, as we touched on the Shit Games episode, there are many ways to approach this, because there are some games which are just broken, right? Just don't work. Fundamentally don't work. Which seems like a bit of a cop-out to choose those. I think on the Shit Games podcast I mentioned the Hidden and Dangerous port for the PlayStation. So Hidden and Dangerous is quite a popular PC shooter. They ported it to the original PlayStation. I picked it up from a 99p bargain bin. Nigh unplayable. But when it comes to games which are competent and finished, but just bad, I've got two on my list. One of which is, if anyone out there remembers Kunzi11's Dinosaurs in Video Games blog, which is still going. I still check in on it occasionally.
It still exists, yeah.
It still exists, yeah, just about. I was hoovering up all and any games that were coming out that had dinosaurs in them to play them and review them for that site. And one of the games I picked up for ridiculously cheap, I think in one of our supermarkets, was Top Trumps Dogs and Dinos.
Oh god, I already hate it.
Yeah. And you can't really fault it, but it is the game of Top Trumps on a DS, and that's it. So yeah, just really bad, because Top Trumps is fundamentally a bad game. Yeah, it's a game that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't really need to have. Yeah, no, like, spending your time playing Top Trumps when there's like a multitude of actually better games.
Yeah.
And
obviously
that Playground one that played Lunch Money, that was awful.
God, yeah, that was bad. But you know, if you're playing Top Trump, well, when you're a kid and you're playing Top Trumps, part of the fun, I guess, was memorizing, you know, what's strong against what, and so you knew when you had unbeatable cards. Then later on, it just becomes a bit of a time passer, because, you know, can be blind luck, but the games go on forever and ever. So it's kind of the shit you play on a train. But on a DS, you remove. I think it was a contrived two-player, but you just remove that fight. It's just you versus the computer, and you're just picking numbers which you think are going to be higher than the other numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was unlockables, because I remember having to play it at least several times to unlock stuff. I can't remember what you had to unlock. And they had a wild card system, but in essence, you log in, you choose dog top trumps or dinosaur top trumps. There wasn't even a dogs versus dinosaur top trumps, right? You just play the top trumps individually, play them against the computer, pick your dogs, pick your dinosaurs. Hey, you won. Oh, you lost. Carry on. So that was quite bad. And the other game, which I've mentioned before, is Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival.
Oh god, yes, yeah. Of course.
I won't go over it again, but you know, serviceable, functional, looks nice, just awful gameplay. It's like playing digital Ludo. There's no agency, there's no skill, and you have to have amiibos to play it. It's just awful.
Yeah.
So I think those are. I took thinking about the worst game as what are games that I would actually hate to play. You know, or you went round to somebody's house, and that's the only thing they had, or you were locked up in prison, but they had a Wii U, and oh great, they got a Wii U, and the only thing they had it was Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. I'm okay. I'm good.
Don't need to continue living.
No, I just sit and stare at the wall rather than play that game. So turning it over to you, what would you say is the worst game you've ever played, and how are you choosing to read that question?
Well, I mean, I'm just games that I played but didn't enjoy, really. So I don't know if this was a present from you, perhaps, and that might be pretty bad.
Is
But
it
there
Resident
was
Evil, is it Resident Evil Revelations?
there's a Resident Evil Revelations.
Can't be the worst game
it's
you ever played because you haven't played it yet.
National Geographic Nat Geo Quiz.
No, I don't think we did get that for you.
Okay, cool. I think it was just a sort of a whim that perhaps was spotted, and it was fun to have a quiz. But yeah, it has a very limited number of quizzes. I think it's like 20. And you can just go through and redo them and get perfect scores. There's a jigsaw mode. There is little factlets here and there which keep it spicy in the maybe spicy is the wrong word. Keep it engaging somewhat. And you can collect certain things as well. So you can collect shark things or puppy things, or it's all in all, it feels like an educational suite that I'm interested in, but is definitely targeted for kids, but would not be engaging for kids. So it's one of these lost marketed.
Yeah, it's such a shame, isn't it? You know, even with like the National Geographic connection, which I think it used to stand for a lot more than it currently does.
yeah. Now it's like Hitler's aliens and things like that.
Yeah. There's certainly a downturn, and even the magazine isn't as strong as it used to be in the past. But it's clearly gone off to some dev who's put in the minimum amount of effort, slapped the National Geographic title on it, and there you go. But it's frustrating because, as we've talked about many times on the podcast, things like Trivial Pursuit versions of that can be really good. Just fun party games. And with the power, what console was it on?
360.
360. With the power of those consoles, you could make just have a almost endless, massive engaging quiz that you actually learned things from, and instead it's all a bit phoned in, and like you say, the target audience that you're going to bite for are bored with it. Adults are not especially going to be interested because it's not particularly challenging. Shame.
There was very little challenge in putting a jigsaw together, or having different levels of putting a jigsaw of a tiger's face together. It's and like there was co-op for it, so both people could be finding bits of the jigsaw, spinning them round and things like that. But it's like, is that a game? But like it be what it be. And another honourable mention to a video game from a long time ago, early 360 days. A game called Naughty Bear. Do you remember this game at all?
No. Naughty Bear.
Yeah, it got a lot of hype. It got like bus banners and
really?
What's it called? Bus shelter sort of advertising, Are you
I remember the box art.
Yeah. So the concept was, you're a bear, you're a bit angry.
Yeah.
So you kill other bears. It's a stealth game with a cutesy world. And maybe the first couple of missions are good. But then it's exactly the same thing over and over and over again. I suppose it's kind of like Hitman, except you have no other things that you can do.
It looks like...
So you literally just have to kill another bear. Yeah.
It looks like Conker's Bad Fur Day meets Manhunt.
Yeah, but like I'm sure Manhunt is actually engaging.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Manhunt is surprisingly engaging.
Yeah. Yeah, and like like I was saying, like Hitman, at least you can do other things. You can push them up a balcony, you can poison them, you can, snipe them from afar. You can like all these change of events happen. You get cutscenes around them and stuff like that. This was try and find a way to kill the other bear without the other bears being there, or kill everyone without, and all that sort of stuff. And you just do that over and over. It became a very bad game very, very quickly. And I think it was the level of hype around it, like the adverts for it everywhere, that made me more disappointed with it. So I think that's what helps make it a bad game.
Yeah. If the marketing team do too good a job, and I guess it's kind of a gift with a game like Naughty Bear, right? Bit of controversy, bit of playing on expectations, and then that only pays off if you're not a shit game.
Yeah, but they got the payday. I paid money for it. I got it on release, I think.
Yeah.
Shit.
And I got a sequel as well.
Did it?
Yeah. Naughty Bear Panic in Paradise.
Panic in Paradise. It just reminded me of Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise.
Oh, come on, say it.
What?
that game really needs a sequel. When are they going to remake Pinata?
Yeah. Why is it not on mobile phones?
It's the take that everybody has about Viva Pinata.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Why is there not a mobile phone microtransaction version? Guarantee people would eat it up.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could just go and play Viva Pinata again.
Can I?
Yeah.
I don't think I can.
Oh no, why not?
Well, first of all, you have to have the original disc. I don't think you can get it on any downloadables anymore. I don't think it got a remake for Xbox One, as in you can't play the old version. And
don't you have the disc? I think I've seen it in your house.
No, I don't have it anymore.
What did you do with it?
I think I was borrowing it for the entire time that I was playing it.
Oh, sick.
And also, the weird thing is, and I think this is one of the painful moments in games, which was I got the Chocolodocus, which is the final and amazing great thing, and it took a lot of time, but my 360 failed or did something and didn't save it, and therefore I have the Chocolodocus and it's tied to your account, but I don't have the Chocolodocus. It's a weird time for games where there was local saves and cloud saves and not quite cloud saves yet. Ugh. Anyway, sorry. I digressed entirely. Yeah, Naughty Bear. Shit.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I was surprised there were no Kinect games on this list. But I think some of those were so bad, but they just didn't function bad. Right? Just really bad. Which, to me, isn't worst game, because they have to function. There has to be some functionality to them, rather than just, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Great.
Okay. So I don't think we've got much more to say about worst games. It's not a great. I'm down now. I'm feeling down.
Okay, well
because we've been talking about crap games. So let's cheer up. Yeah.
Let's pick up the energy, shall we?
Yeah.
And the vibes. What game would you recommend to somebody to convince them that games are good or interesting? So somebody, rare these days to perhaps find somebody who's never played games at all, but somebody who just doesn't see the appeal, comes to your house like, oh, you got some video games, and you can see they're interested. What would you recommend to them?
So I've thought about this one for a while, and I suppose it depends on the person. and the sort of genres that you think they might into. But I think for accessibility and for look at games now, I would say that Animal Crossing is such a safe bet for somebody to like and get into a game which doesn't necessarily need a lot of action and panic or whatever. It's chilled, it's relaxing, it's collecting things or paying off your mortgage, that sort of stuff. I would recommend Animal Crossing to someone who doesn't necessarily want a action-packed, stressful gaming experience.
Yeah.
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 And then I think on the opposite side of the spectrum, for someone who has been under a rock, never played games, or is unaware, the full fantasy freedom either of Fallout 4 or Skyrim, one of the Bethesda titles, just to like, look, you can do anything you want, you can build anything you want, you can go slay dragons, you know, that full massive world I think would be like an ideal opener for people. And plus it's pretty, even now it's still pretty. Like, the game is 15 years old, it holds up quite well. So yeah, this is quite short and sweet, actually. But yeah, those two games I think I would recommend. Of course, there's probably other, if you know the person quite well, like they're really into horror movies, then just played Resident Evil 2, the remake. It's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But I suppose it really does sort of depend on the person. But like, for broad appeal and for getting somebody to see what games are like nowadays, I don't know why. I don't know what the scenario is in my head, but I think Animal Crossing for somebody wanting a relaxed, chilled time, and Skyrim for somebody wanting a bit more action-packed look at the immersive world this is creating.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, good chance.
How about you? What games would you recommend to somebody who's been living under a rock?
Well, I feel, and I think you might have been thinking about this as well with your first choice. And perhaps it's less the case these days. But for a while, the games which, you know, kind of had the most possibilities or looked the best were quite complex to control. And I'm sure you've had this as well, when, you know, you kind of say, oh, would you like to have a go, and give it to somebody, and, you know, they are just struggling with the camera, right? Like, you need to like put the camera up, pull the camera up, pull the camera up, pull the camera up. No, you need to pull the camera up. Just because there's such complexity. You know, if you hadn't grown up in playing, you know, 3D games, where all of that's just natural. Yeah, it is kind of weird that, you know, that is up and that is down, and you just have to do this all the time. And
no, I agree entirely.
In particularly, it's kind of really hard to describe when you're moving around on the left stick, but where you're looking on your right stick dictates where you go. And that's just so built into so many games that if you've ever played these games or grown up with these games, it's baked in, but almost impossible to communicate. So really difficult to try and say, oh yeah, you know, this game looks really great, why don't you have a go? And then it's really, really hard because all the conventions which are baked in. So I think that's why Animal Crossing is a really good rec, because it doesn't have that. And I mean, just Nintendo. Is it fair to say Nintendo? Yeah, I think it is. Nintendo games in general are so good at teaching you how to play them, generally speaking. So, you know, it's cliche, but Mario is a really good example of, you know, those first 3 levels. It teaches you how to play it. You know, like, oh, you can jump here. Oh, look, this block is placed here. This block is placed here. And then it starts to play with those conventions. And then I saw a really good video the other day online about really, really good about how the design the design is used to create anxiety. So as the levels go on, for example, in the first level, you have that staircase up to the flag, right? You jump up to the flag, hit the flag, that's the end of the level. And then in later levels, you might have, instead of having that staircase to jump up, you might have
a few squares you have to jump on.
Columns, so column, gap, column, gap, column, gap. And then later on, even though it makes very little difference, instead of there being columns, there'll just be squares. So it'll be a square, gap, square, gap, square, gap. So even though functionally that's pretty much the same as having those columns, because if you fall down those gaps, you're fucked. The precarity of that design, just by looking at it, oh shit, and we all get that anxiety, I think, when you're playing a Mario game. In a podcast recently, you mentioned, the levels with the scrolling screen.
Yeah,
they create that like, oh, or when you get to a bit and there's one square you have to jump on, or there's wobbly blocks, right? And that you have to run along the wobbly blocks, not too fast because you drop off the screen, not too slow because then the screen will catch you up. Just teaches you how to do it without a big tutorial popping up or a character popping up saying, hey, now you can do.
Yeah, press RT to run.
Yeah,
that's the sort of thing. Yeah.
Press and hold down on the D-pad and press R1 and R2 to do an active reload or whatever. And so it naturally teaches you kind of how to master it. And I think Animal Crossing works in the same way, not so mechanically perhaps, but just in the way it introduces you into the game. And you spend the first bit like, oh, I can get some fruit and sell some fruit. Okay, that's fine. And then, the next day when you log in, like, oh, the stock changes. Oh, I've paid off my more. And then before you know it, you're making your own designs, trading with your friends. Really, really good at holding your hand and getting you in. So my two, and I also went with two, kind of at different extremes as well. One of which I think is The Last of Us.
For the narrative?
Yeah, the narrative, but also it's a beautiful and touching game. I've not played the sequel. I don't know why. I should. I enjoy it. Too many games already. I know that I'll pick it up when it's produced. But the story, the cinematic presentation, the way it makes you feel, the depiction of post-apocalypse, which we're saturated with post-apocalypses, but it really creates that sense of place. Probably is quite difficult to get your hands to get your head around if you've not played a game, but I think it's one that would kind of drag you through it, and is just a roller coaster of the ride from start to finish. So that's kind of perhaps the Skyrim or the Fallout 4. This is the power of when all the power is from games is used to its best. So it's graphically stunning, performs really well, blockbuster story and script and performances, and tugs at your heartstrings, critically acclaimed. And you've never played it, have you?
Nope.
Has a really...
But it's weird, my girlfriend wants to play it.
Yeah, it's great.
She read reviews and Guardian and things like that. And
yeah.
Brings it up every so often. I just don't have a medium to play it on. I don't even know if it's on PC yet. Or
no, don't. Yeah, for a long time it was PlayStation exclusive, I think.
I think it is just PlayStation exclusive, yeah.
But it opens really, really strongly. Just grips you with both hands. And it's one of those ones where it happened here. I've heard it happen elsewhere. When you say to your partner, like, "Oh, I'm playing a new game. Are you interested?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And they sit down, and before you know it, they're looking at another screen or going off to, update their address book, polish their shoes, whatever. Clearly not interested.
Absolutely anything else.
Yeah, anything else. But no, in this one, we sat and essentially played it together, and yeah, just really, really loved it. At the other end of the spectrum, one we've talked about before, but maybe Gris.
Gris?
How the fuck you pronounce it? Yeah, because it's simple. It's a platformer.
Yeah.
Essentially, you just hold right, but it is beautiful. Again, it kind of teaches you how to play it. It's short.
It's got some cool power-ups. It's got some double jumps. You can fly, and
it's also short as well, so you don't need to. It's not games as a service type thing. So yeah, that'd be one that. It's also quite cheap as well, so that'd be one that if somebody said, "Hey, I've just got a Switch for my son or my sister or my brother, but what is there anything for me to play on it? But I don't really play games. Like, give Gris a whirl." Then you can kind of go from there.
So just to date this podcast as well.
Yeah.
So the spiritual sequel to this is Stray. Have you had a look at this?
Well, if you remember, it was on my most anticipated.
Most anticipated for this year?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Go back and give it a listen.
Yeah.
And that's just when it was concept art and a teaser, or not even that, just screenshots.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you picked it up yet?
No, I haven't. I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. We've both bought Final Fantasy VII Remake after wanting to play it as soon as the teasers dropped. And neither of us are playing it, even though
You've got quite far into it.
I've got quite far, and it is genuinely great. I'm really, really loving it. But for some reason, I don't know. I'm just blocked on it, really. I'm not playing it. But then as a consequence, I'm like, I'm not buying that. I haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm not playing that.
Wow. It's become a blocker for everything.
Yeah, it has. Well. Yeah, it's become a blocker for everything on the. It's weird how this works on the PlayStation 4. Other consoles seems to be fine. And then after that, I've got Horizon Zero Dawn to play. Which is so at some point I'll pick up Stray. But I did see that it was making some traction through social media. Have you got any more on that? Because that's literally what I've got.
What, Stray?
Yeah.
I picked it up.
You did?
So, yes.
Wow, okay.
And I've been playing it, and it's identical feeling to Grease.
Mm-hmm.
Same music. Still, there's going to be some cool power-ups. The cat controls and the catness of it is like it's meant for gamers who have cats, and I think most of them do.
Yeah.
So it was kind of it's cool, and the dystopian world that the cat is moving around in is very atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got too far, but one thing I would say is there is peril, and there is the ability to die in this game as well.
All right.
Unlike Grease. Or could you die in Grease?
I don't know what happened when the crow would catch you. I presume you die.
I think you just go back. Or maybe you respawn like you do when you replay.
There were checkpoints, yeah.
Probably that. Same thing then, really. But yeah, it's engaging. It does have controls that pop up and say, press RT to run. And there are things that are dotted around to make it obvious for you to do, but the route that you choose and how you navigate is very, very well done, which I thought was quite funky. But yeah, play it. I imagine it's going to be quite short. It's not an expensive game either.
Good. Yeah. So I was excited about that when I read a very early days preview of it.
It was a very late night purchase, and there had been cocktails, so I was kind of hey, there's a game about cats, I should buy it, I'm gonna buy that, and then I bought it, and it's great. The world that we live in is like, it's like I've got Steam just there. I bought it, I downloaded it within a few minutes, and I was playing it. And I was just like, wow, this is the dream. This is everything I wanted as a little kid. The ability to just get games and play them and own them as an adult, and not play Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Despite on paper loving everything about it.
Everything about it, despite it tugging every single heartstring from Final Fantasy VII, which I've replayed about 15 times.
Yeah,
but
masterfully, redoing the entire soundtrack, telling a story you love. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also an extra dimension for me as well. The gameplay is so similar to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
Because that was Square Enix as well.
Yeah.
I swear it's the same engine, and I bought that before Final Fantasy, and I'm just kind of like, I've got to finish one of them. You know what I mean?
I can only play one game in the same engine at the same time. Time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is like you'll burn out if you play both of them back to back.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to inflict myself, or I don't know. Can
you remember? Can you remember we complained that they're splitting Final Fantasy VII into several games. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God they did. Right? Maybe I'll be done with the first part by the time the next part comes out on the next console. And
Remake, Resurrection, and Reunion, or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we should play those. I really want to talk about it.
Really should. So, we recapped what game did I like that was panned. I finished my answer. We've done worst game.
Yeah.
And we've both done games that we would recommend.
Yeah, so normies.
Yeah, so I think we've reached the end of this podcast.
I think so, yeah. It's had a nice kind of like mellow trajectory, I think.
Yeah, mellow. I mean, I think it's very blatantly obvious from the yawning most of the way through it.
To situate us in time, it's fucking hot today. I just got no.
I think the worst part about it is, and then this is the old man in me speaking, is so humid as well.
It is. So a couple of weeks ago was the heat wave. Depending on when you're listening, probably the mildest heat wave we've ever had. But at the time, it was a Danger Will Robson type event. But at least, because I don't think we're old enough for it to cause those kind of health problems. At least it was a dry heat, right? It was just pure heat, but dry heat. At the moment,
yeah, it's horrible because you automatically feel clammy as soon as you walk around. You almost feel like your clothes just grab onto you.
Yeah.
And you're not sure if it's sweat or just... In fact, it's like, I don't know, London perspiration is attached to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's a slight stickiness to the floor, right? So you're like... And feeling that yourself.
There's dewy sap and but everything is also brown at the moment. Like all of the plants have just been scorched because of the heat wave.
Yeah.
So
and then it's accompanied by the wonderful aroma of bin bags in the baking heat all day.
Yes. Just like. A garbage truck goes past you and you just get it and it hits the back of your throat.
Yeah, you're tasting it. Yeah. I really want those, in always in sci-fi when they go into a lab and there's that, that like airlock beforehand which blitzes you with God knows what to sterilize whatever, and I just really wish I had one of those. I just feel disgusting all the time at the moment. And it's only fucking Monday.
I know. And the rest of the week's supposed to be like this. But like, the humidity needs to break. That guy's a maniac. This is a podcast about the weather.
But we tackled the big topics. We tackled toilets. We've now talked about the weather.
Primal fears of toilets as well.
Primal fears of toilets. And next week on That Guy's a Maniac, we'll be talking about early onset arthritis. And
how to get the best yeast starters for your sourdough.
And when should you go and get that eye test at the opticians? Tune in next week. Richie, that guy's a maniac.
Why'd he bite me?